Okay, so now I'm going to show you the check takeoff component step. So in the check takeoff component step, you're essentially checking generic models in the project for a parameter called takeoff components. Now, the takeoff team uses these the value of these parameters to determine like heights, widths, offsets that they need to do a takeoff for those generic models. So to complete the step, you're going to go to the checklist, read what you're supposed to do in the description, and then do the step. So in the description, it says open the takeoff components tab. You can do that by either clicking this row or opening the tab down here. You're going to click the get data button. If any of the listed items don't have takeoff components, click the reload button. And if any of the items still don't have takeoff components, contact Zach. So open it, hit get data. As I mentioned before, this is going to grab generic models in the project and list their takeoff components in this column. There's some filters here that I'll go into. So as you see here, family / type name. There's a Mac clip / Mac 11 in the first row, and the takeoff components that it has for that takeoff components parameter, which is basically just a long string of data. It's pretty much, you can't read it, or it's hard to read it for just figuring out what's actually inside of it. But basically, the biggest thing you're checking for is if any of these rows have a blank value for this takeoff component. So if we see here, it looks that all of these actually have takeoff components, so you'd be good to go. You could also, as I mentioned before, uncheck some of these checkboxes. It's going to give you more of the generic models in the project. This Mac 11 test, for example, it doesn't actually have any generic models placed in the project, so it doesn't have any instances. So that's why it got filtered out. And also it looks like it's just like some tests that the drafter did, so I wouldn't worry about it. And if you uncheck this, has takeoff components parameters, this gives you all the generic models in the project. I mean, you can find all of them down here in generic models, but this is just kind of, you know, different user interface. Most of these probably, I mean, 90%, 98% of the time don't need takeoff component parameters. Things such as embeds or, I don't know, random families that are in projects. Pretty much most of the time you could just ignore this, but there's some times where something will get lost in here. But pretty much most of the time, just go with this list. If any of them are blank, hit reload from server. It'll attempt to reload them. Maybe they're out of date. Those takeoff parameters have been added. You just haven't been loaded into the project yet. If that fails and any of these are still blank, contact Zach and he'll fix it for you.